Okay, so this video is going to address Mezzotint. Mezzotint is a form of Intaglio. It is the word Mezzotint is Italian for literally halftone. So it is the origin of the word halftone. Of course, halftone today, and for quite some time now, refers to the dot that is used, huge numbers of dots, to translate the tonality of an image. But prior to the late 19th century and to photographic and mechanical means of reproduction, Mezzotint was this technique. And it's generally done on copper. And the first thing you start with is you have to prepare the plate with a Mezzotint rocker. So this is a Mezzotint rocker. The rockers will come in different widths. So this is a 1 inch, but you can get them in different sizes. And they'll also come in different lines per inch. So this one is 1 inch wide, and it is 100 grooves in that inch. So this is 100 lines per inch. They will go down to like 40 lines per inch for coarser, and they might go up to 120 for the finest. And the way this tool works is this piece of special steel has these grooves put in them, and then this side is sharpened at a good bevel there. So what you essentially have is this kind of spade that is slightly serrated at the blade. So it's not a like a knife blade. Because of these incisions and the bevel, this is a serrated series of points. And the way you prepare the plate is you take the rocker, and again, I'll do it on the back. This is one way of holding it, and you rock back and forth, and you slowly move it forward. There will be another demo, another video that is about the demo. And as I move forward, then you can see that I have put hundreds of little tiny divots into the surface of the copper, and it's rough. So the idea is that with the rocker, you prepare the plate by rocking all the way across the plate in different directions a whole bunch of times until this surface feels like a perfectly uniform piece of sandpaper. Now, when that's done and the plate is all rough and uniform, if you wiped up the plate and printed it at that point, it would be solid black. Because by making the surface of the plate very rough, like this sandpaper, it's going to hold on to a lot of ink. Then you use a scraper and a burnisher to start to smooth out parts of that rough sandpaper texture. So Mezzotint is similar to darkening your drawing paper with charcoal and then drawing the image with the eraser. So you start by preparing the plate, making it all uniformly rough. At that point, the plate would print solid black. And then you go in with either the scraper or the burnisher or both to smooth out certain parts of the plate. Now, where you start to smooth it out, it will hold less ink and be a gray value, or you could even bring it back to white. So in this print right here, by an alumnus of Texas State, his name is Juan Garcia, this is a Mezzotint. So out here where it's solid black, he has prepared the plate with the rocker, but he did not scrape or burnish or in any way smooth out this portion. So this portion out here prints solid black. But in this part of the image, this cigar-like shape, he used the scraper and burnisher to create these grays. Now, what he's referencing here is he's referencing a piece by Hans Holbein, the elder, the painting called The Ambassadors. So it's an elongated skull, and you can look at it from an angle to get the proportions of the skull accurate. But if you look straight at the image, you get that elongated form. And so this kind of subtle softness is distinctive of mezzotint. It's similar to dry point in the sense that there's no acid, there's no ground, you're directly manipulating the copper. But it's very different from dry point because you're not working with lines. You're creating these very tiny little divots to roughen the surface, and then you are smoothing out that rough surface so that different quantities of ink will be held in the plate to achieve different grays and blacks and whites and everything in between. Here is another Mezzotint, a very small one. This is an artist who just retired from his teaching career. Art Wenger is his name. And this is a Mezzotint. So this plate was entirely roughened, just like the others we've looked at. And then using the scraper and the burnisher, he smooths things out. So like in this area right here, it's brought back almost to 100% smooth. There's just tiny little bits of ink left that are going to hold a little bit of ink. But in the woman's hair, like right here, he's left it entirely rough, and so it's a nice black. But the way he's able to show the male figure through this frosted shower door, and so you don't have this hard edge, so you have this beautiful softness happening there. That is very distinctive of Mezzotint. And Art Wenger is very good at many things, but he's particularly an expert at Mezzotint. And Mezzotint is often small, but not always. The labor involved in preparing the plate with the rocker is kind of intense. And so people don't usually work very large. Here is an intaglio by a really brilliant artist named Eric Zimmerman, who now lives up in Washington State. But this is a whole mix of intaglio techniques. So you have some line etching. So these lines here are straight up hard ground line etching. You have some open bite. You see this dark edge down here where one side of the edge is sharp and one side is soft and blurry. That's just open bite where the acid was allowed to etch this whole lower portion of the image. Then there's some dry point, like these lines are put in after these, and these are dry point lines there. And then finally, this diagram of the dark spots and the dry point lines is Orion, the what's the term? The
constellation.
The constellation. And this is Mount Everest, is a depiction of Mount Everest that the line etch is. So he's superimposing the image of Orion, the constellation of Orion, on top of a view of Mount Everest. And the stars from the constellation, instead of white or light, he has done as black, so he's inverted that aspect. And you see the soft edges of these stars. That's because he did these with a Mezzotint rocker. So the density of the black in that spot and the softness at its periphery is coming from the fact that he used a Mezzotint rocker to achieve those dark spots. And so he's using different techniques within intaglio to sort of overlay different kinds of imagery, the constellation with the depiction of Everest. There's a lot of scraping and burnishing that has happened on this plate, and you're seeing lots of telltale signs of that around the image. Because of the scraping and burnishing, you get this kind of warm, intense kind of worked surface that is quite different than if the copper were 100% polished and smoothed. One of the other aspects of intaglio that was sort of alluded to in an earlier video is that the copper is quite malleable. So you can make an image like this on the copper, and then you could completely change it. You know, you can scrape and burnish on the plate, you can etch more stuff into it, you can add dry point on top of it. So the sequence of events and how long you work on that plate could almost go to infinity. But the main point I wanted to make is that you don't, to use a Mezzotint technique, you don't have to exclusively do Mezzotint. So Mezzotint can be incorporated into other Intaglio techniques. And then I have two former student examples here of Mezzotint. So in both of these, they are examples where the student darkened the entire plate and then went back with the scraper and burnisher to create all the values. Same there. So in this sense, they are more traditional Mezzotint in the sense that the plate was fully darkened and roughened, and then the scraper and the burnisher is used to create the image. But again, that's not a requirement for using the Mezzotint tools. Okay, that's probably good.